Okay, in order to understand the mentality there in the Truckee area, let's get into some particulars and get to know the area a little better. I think it'll give us a better understanding of why we're seeing some of the attitudes that we're seeing. First of all, Truckee is a pretty affluent area. You know, it's got a lot of rich folk there. In fact, there is one article that talks about Truckee, and it says housing costs in Truckee are among some of the highest in the nation. All right, this area is part of the Lake Tahoe region. Of course, Lake Tahoe is known as Billionaires Row. In fact, it says it is considered Billionaires Row or Income Village, and is basically one giant country club with large gated estates that you can only see from the water. Among the wealthy residents, and it lists a bunch of people that I don't have any idea who they are, but I know that was a Zuckerberg. Isn't he the guy I think that started Facebook or something? Anyway, he's got like a big estate there on the lake, and there's other movie stars that have. So anyway, it's an affluent area, a lot of rich people, and in the article also goes on to say, it says, as Truckee is a decidedly white-collar town with fully 87.98% of the workforce employed in white-collar jobs, well above the national average. Overall, Truckee is a town of professionals, sales and office workers, and managers. It goes on to say, of important note, Truckee is also a town of artists. Truckee has more artists, designers, and people working in media than 90% of the communities in America. Wow. Wow. This concentration of artists helped shape Truckee's character. All right. It says also of interest is that Truckee has more people living here who work in computers and math than 95% of the places in the U.S. All right, so Truckee's very unique. So you got a lot of educated people there. In fact, the article also says, if knowledge is power, Truckee is a pretty powerful place. 55.72% of the adults in Truckee have earned a 4-year college degree, master's degree, MD, law degree, or even PhD. And compare that to the national average of 21.84% for all cities and towns. It says the per capita income in Truckee in 2018, okay, so this was 4 years ago, people, so it has greatly increased since then. It says the per capita income in Truckee in 2018 was $53,311, which is wealthy relative to California and the nation. This equates to an annual income of $213,244 for a family of 4. However, Truckee contains both very wealthy and poor people as well. Okay, so the next thing I want us to look at, we see what the income is there. Get ready to see some eye-popping figures here as far as the real estate that's in Truckee. And okay, now there are 7 main neighborhoods in the Truckee area. I want us to take a look at some of the real estate prices there. You might find this interesting. Okay, this is going to be a little tedious, so if you want to go ahead and skip ahead in the video, you're more than welcome. But there might be some people that find this interesting. I know I did. All right, and we're going to look at all 7 neighborhoods very quickly, hopefully. Okay, Prosser Heights. Okay, the Prosser Heights median real estate price is $1,089,422. Pure pocket change. which is more expensive than 78.3% of the neighborhoods in California and 95.2% of the neighborhoods in the U.S. The average rental price in Prosser Heights is currently $2,989 per month. Okay. The next one. The Armstrong Tract. Okay, keep in mind, who was it that founded the Worldwide Church of God? It was Herbert W. Armstrong, right? So we got the Armstrong Tract. Armstrong Tract median real estate price is $942,835, which here in 2022, I guarantee you is, I mean, it might even be double that by now. Who knows? But I guarantee you it's over $1 million. It says, which is more expensive than 69.9% of the neighborhoods in California and 93.2% of the neighborhoods in the U.S. The average rental price in Armstrong Tract is currently $2,707, which I guarantee you that's gone up considerably in 4 years. I couldn't find any more recent statistics than this. So, but I mean, this at least this accomplishes the purpose of letting us see, you know, this is a pretty affluent area. All right, North Star Mountainside / Martis Camp. Median real estate price is $2,057,312. And we're going to make some rabbit stew.
One rabbit stew coming right up.
I've been somewhat binge watching a lot of videos, and it's been interesting to me how the further we get into this, to me anyway, it seems more and more like this whole Kiely Rodni case is just one big cover-up. That's just my view of it. Now look, you don't have to agree with me on the things I'm going to be saying, and that's fine. You know, we all have our own theories, and a lot of people on YouTube have looked at aspects of this case that I haven't even bothered to pursue. There's a lot of you who know a lot more about this than I do. I'm just concentrating on what piques my interest. Now, keep in mind, my view is from the perspective of an ex-cop. And I'm looking at this as if I were an outside agency investigating all the players involved. The supposed friends, the community, the family, and law enforcement. And I have to be honest and say, when putting everything together, I think it's somewhat alarming. At least it's alarming to me. And from the comments that I've gotten on my videos, it's no different for a lot of you out there too. A lot of you view this the same way that I do. Now, this next statement, a lot of you are not going to agree with, and that's fine. We don't have to agree. You know, we've got to look at the big picture. The important thing is that we're all on the same team, and all we want to do is find the truth of what happened. So I'm simply wanting to share my own opinion, and keep in mind, the things that I'm going to share are my opinions of what I believe is true. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm not saying anyone is guilty. I'm simply sharing my opinion based on what I've seen, the evidence that's arisen, and the vibe that I get from the community and the people involved and the way this case has been handled by law enforcement. It's kind of it's a mixture of everything together is what I'm basing my opinion on. Not just one, minor detail here and there, but the whole picture. So I want to begin by having us look at what I think are some major red flags in this case. All right, red flag number 1. Not long after Kiely went missing, the police came out with this photo, saying it was taken at a local convenience store at 6:08 p.m. the night of the party. Now, as I stated in another video, I looked at every store within a 10-mile radius in every direction from Truckee and also from where Kiely lived, which really wasn't that far. It's south of Truckee ways. Now, the interior shown in this photo does not match any store in that area, at least that I have found. Also, it says a timestamp of 6:08 p.m. Now, according to the local newspaper, Sammy stated that Kiely and Mags arrived at the party around 9:45 p.m. So from 6:08 p.m. to 9:45 p.m., we have almost a 4-hour time gap between when Kiely was supposedly seen at the store and when she arrived at the party. Now, sorry, but it does not take 4 hours to drive from Truckee to the party site. So what were they doing for almost 4 hours? Now, I haven't seen any statement from Mags accounting for that time. Now, maybe you have. Maybe there is something out there and I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. But this time gap, almost a 4-hour time gap for about a 20-minute drive or 30 minutes at the most, you've got a 4-hour time gap. This time gap makes absolutely no sense. Secondly, there have been a lot of creators on here go over this picture in a lot of detail. I mean, very minute detail, and picked it apart. And from what I've seen, and I think they've proven this, that it's obviously been photoshopped. For one thing, the hair doesn't even come close to matching Kiely, the hair color. You know, the hair color doesn't match, the length doesn't match, it's too short. She had really skinny legs, and the legs in this picture are much thicker than her legs. And you look at all the other pictures of her, and she's got skinny legs. And the legs in this picture are not, you know, I mean, they're not huge, they're not thunder thighs or anything, but they're, you know, they're not skinny like hers. There also appears to be a segment of a, peeking out, a segment of a tattoo on her chest, which she doesn't have. So the whole thing seems to be a total fake. So if that's the case, and it was law enforcement who came out with this photo, why are the cops putting out a fake photo? Why are the cops putting out a Photoshop photo? And so if the photo's a fake, that means we also have to question the timestamp and the statement that she was seen at the store at 6:08 p.m. So we're forced to ask, why did the cops propagate an outright lie? Why do this? There's no logical reason to put this out. So we have to question whether Kiely was at this store at 6:08 p.m. We also have to ask, what is the reason the cops are trying to make us believe she was there at that particular time? At this point, we have to ask, can we trust anyone? Can we trust any statements from anyone involved in this case? That includes friends, that includes the cops, and even the family. There has to be a reason they said she was at this store when it's obvious she was not. Okay. Red flag number 2. The two narratives that have been pushed by the family. Now, when Kiely first came up missing, they said that they had searched the roads in the area looking for her car, or said they did anyway. I'm not so sure that's true. When they could not find her car, they went straight to the theory that she'd been abducted. And I could be wrong on this. There could be some stuff out there that I haven't seen, but I'm just going by what I have seen, okay? So keep that in mind. But as far as I have seen, they never even considered any other theory. You know, like I say, I may be wrong, but this is the only thing that I saw or heard. Even Sammy, in her interview, was saying that Kiely might have been abducted, and went so far as to say, I know there has to be someone else involved in this. It's quite the statement. Really pushing that narrative. Not one time do I remember anyone saying she might have driven drunk and run off the road somewhere. Now, maybe they did state it. I just haven't seen any place where they did say it at that time period. But even if they did, they were still really pushing the abduction scenario really, really hard. Now, be honest, it wouldn't be all that unusual to come up with that theory. That's obviously going to be one of the theories that they're considered. But when we take everything together and look at it, it's strange how before Kiely was found, that was a scenario everyone was pushing. She's been abducted. And then, after Kiely was found, the second scenario they began pushing was this was an accident. And Lindsay really began pushing that hard, as well as other people, including law enforcement. Now, while it would be normal to have an accident as one of the scenarios, that's not unusual. That's going to be normal when you're looking at all the possibilities. But it's rather telling to me how the family never even contemplated this being anything but an accident, at least publicly. I've never seen the family say anything about this being some type of foul play. The fact that they're pushing the accident scenario is really suspicious to me. Why is that the only scenario that they're pushing, and pushing it hard? Now, here's the thing that really makes this stand out for me. Lindsay went on and on. This is before Kiely was found. Lindsay went on and on about how responsible Kiely was, how she would never drink and drive. Back when they were first discussing that she might have run off the road. Oh, no. She would not do that. She swore up and down how she knew better and would never drive drunk. Then look at the 180 she does. Ever since Kiely was found in the lake, Lindsay's been saying, it's just an accident, and pushing that narrative. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't you just get through saying that Kiely would never drive drunk? She's smarter than that. She knows better than that. She'd never do that. She would never drive drunk. Now, to me, this isn't normal behavior. Now, I know if it was found in the lake, in the cargo area of I lost my train of thought here. Let me just say this. Now, if it was me that was found in the lake, in the cargo area of a Honda CRV that has such a small space back there, almost impossible to get back to, my mom would be tearing the town apart. In fact, not only the town, but the county, the state, and maybe even the neighboring states, trying to get answers as to what happened. In fact, instead of hugging friends that abandoned me, she'd be taking them out behind the woodshed and scaring the bejesus out of them, or making them talk. Now, granted, my mom was the head of magistrate court in our county, was used to dealing with turd heads. But it was like that old movie. I don't know, some of you older folk like me remember that old movie where the guy goes, "We have ways of making you talk." I'm sorry, but to just call this an accident and stick your head in the sand when there's nothing that says this is an accident is just very strange and suspicious. It really makes me wonder if even the family was in on this. Now, some people may think that's far-fetched, but it wouldn't be the first time a parent got rid of a kid for one reason or another. I just want to look at a few cases just to get you familiar with it. And some of you probably were familiar with a couple of these. This first one says, mother slays 7 children, but first she did away with the family duck. I guess that's where they come up with the term dead duck. Bad joke, I know. Okay, Raina Mersane Ina Taide, in December 2014, stabbed to death 7 of her 8 children and her niece before stabbing herself 35 times. Taide, then 40, first killed the family's pet duck, then said a dove's call was a sign from God that she must kill her children in order to save them. The victims included 4 girls and 4 boys ranging in age from 2 to 14. Taide survived, and an Australian judge exempted her from trial and committed her to a mental health facility. All right. Second one. Matthew Coleman charged with killing 2 tots to save the world. Matthew Taylor Coleman, 40, faces 2 counts. They said county, but I think they mean counts. First-degree foreign murder in the August deaths of his 2-year-old son and 10-month-old daughter with a spear fishing gun. Holy crap. He told authorities the children were possessed with serpent DNA and were going to grow into monsters. Coleman had driven the children from Santa Barbara, California to Mexico, where he is accused of killing them in Rosarita Beach and then dumping their bodies. Which, if you know where Rosarita Beach is, it's down on Baja California Sur, down there. They're kind of close to Ensenada, that area. Coleman, a follower of QAnon conspiracy theories, told authorities that he knew it was wrong, but it was the only course of action that would save the world. Coleman pleaded not guilty. All right, next one. Isabel Martinez fatally stabs her entire family except for one survivor. Isabel Martinez in July 2017 stabbed to death her husband, 33, and 4 of her children, ages 2, 4, 7, and 10, before cutting herself. The 35-year-old Georgia woman also stabbed her other child, a 9-year-old, who survived the stabbing. Martinez also survived and pleaded guilty to the murders, saying she believed a devil-like spirit was trying to take her children. Almost sounds like maybe these people were involved with cults or something. It's just a thought. This one was, I'm sure you remember this one. This one was nationwide news. Susan Smith drowns 2 young sons, claims carjacker took them. Susan Smith in October 1994 drowned her 3-year-old and 14-month-old sons near the family's South Carolina home. Smith was reportedly dating a man who did not want children, and to get rid of her own. To get rid of her own, drove her car into a lake with the children strapped inside. Got a lake involved. She initially blamed a made-up kidnapper, but then admitted her crime. Smith was sentenced to life in prison and is eligible for parole in 2024. Huh? You gotta be kidding me. Yeesh. Next one. This is the last one we'll look at. Andrea Yates drowned her 5 children one by one in a bathtub. Texas-born Andrea Yates in June 2001 drowned her 5 young children one by one in a bathtub while her husband was at work. Can you imagine getting home from work and finding all 5 of your kids dead? Ugh. Yates, then 37, was convicted on 2 counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison. The verdict was reversed on appeal, and Yates, in 2006, was released on bond. I swear to our legal system, man, I tell you. The following day, she was admitted to a psychiatric facility where she remains to this day. You think? Holy moly. All right, now look. I'm not saying that Kiely's family was in on this. I'm just saying that this kind of thing happens more often than we might think. And considering her narrative of pushing this as being an accident to me, considering everything else you looked at in my previous videos and how people cover for other people, to me there has to be a reason she's pushing the accident scenario so hard and not even considering there might be foul play. That's just weird. By the way, don't you think it's a little strange how there are so many of us on YouTube who absolutely do not believe this was an accident and absolutely believe this was foul play, yet she won't even consider it? She just wants to say it's an accident and move on. Seriously? You don't care about getting justice for your daughter? That's just totally beyond me. How could you be like that? You know, it just seems that law enforcement, the family, and everyone else involved want this just swept under the carpet like they've done with so many other cases in that region. So many other cases. All right, red flag number 3 is the attitudes toward adventures with purpose. Going to look at the attitudes one by one here. First of all, Lindsay. She was upset when she heard AWP was coming to search for Kiely. What's the first thing she did? First thing she did was pull the reward money so she wouldn't have to give it to AWP. Now here's the deal. She pulled it as soon as she heard they were coming. Why did she do that? Did she do that because she already knew that Kiely was in Prosser Reservoir and that AWP would most likely find her? Now keep in mind, she had been pushing this abduction scenario, even going on TV and pleading for whoever had her to return her, pleading for Kiely to come back home. Okay, so if she really believed the scenario she was pushing so hard, this abduction scenario, and making everyone else believe, why was she so upset that AWP was coming? Oh, if Kiely had been abducted, AWP coming was of no consequence. You know, since Lindsay had made no mention of Kiely possibly being in one of the lakes and believed that Kiely had been abducted, why was she so upset that AWP was coming? Why did she continue to get even more upset as AWP's search went along, and even after they found Kiely? She was upset. Now, to be fair, I can understand her being upset with this being made public and all over YouTube. Okay, I can somewhat sympathize with that. I don't have any problem with that. I can see where, you know, she might be, you know, not want this all to be a public thing. But to me, this is not being able to see the forest for the trees. This is not being able to see the bigger picture. I mean, hey, come on. You are getting answers as to the disappearance of your daughter. Didn't that mean anything to her? Wasn't that important to her? Didn't she even care a little bit that her daughter was being found and they now know she's no longer missing? You know, even if she's found dead, at least there's an answer. It seems this whole time, everything she has said and done screams, it's all about me and nothing about Kiely. I don't for the life of me see how a person can make this all about them and seem angry that some people cared enough to help them free of charge and do what nobody else in the 2 counties involved were able to do. I'm sorry. I just don't get it. All right. Second person, Jagger. Jagger started making posts calling AWP clout chasers, a bunch of effing liars. What? Wait, Jagger. You kept going on and on how you loved Kiely, blah, 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 and miss her forever, and you don't even care if she's found or not? This girl who you claim to love more than life itself has finally been found, and all you can do is disparage and badmouth the people who were kind enough to travel from Oregon to California because other people cared. And the majority of those other people who cared being us on social media. And by the way, it wasn't the people involved in this who were crying for help. It was us, the social media monster, who sent thousands of requests to AWP begging them to come find her. I mean, it's beyond me how it appears nobody in that area wanted to see her found. Next person, Steve, or SF Investigates. the supposed PI went on somewhat of a rampage, said all kinds of derogatory things about AWP, even going so far as to flat out call them liars when they talked about the meeting with Nick, the service driver. Now, what's interesting, the things that Steve said, SF said, Kate said the same things when she was told about Nick meeting the two people at the car. She said, oh, it's all lies, total BS, blah, 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 until she was told that it was all captured on video. And then, crickets. So we have to ask, why would she be upset about it? Why would she react so strongly and say it was all BS? Why would SF go out of his way to try to discredit AWP and say they were lying? What would be the point? What would be the purpose? In my opinion, there is no purpose other than the whole group is trying to cover something up. Talking about what I believe is this GoFundMe scam, and I believe it's a total scam. Now, you may not, but that's me. The scam which other people have been investigating. And I want to encourage you, if you haven't seen the videos on this, go over to Squirrel Girl's channel and watch the information she's gathered on this. And she's contacted GoFundMe. She's been corresponding back and forth with them and having them investigate because there is some shady BS going on here. Now, in the beginning, this was supposedly set up as reward money for anyone who provided information leading to Kiely's whereabouts. Let's bring Kiely home. Now, it was set up by someone named Amy Quirarte. Now, who is this Amy Quirarte? Look at that. Annie Quirarte, real estate. Wow, 5-star review. Yeah. Just so happens that this is Lindsay's real estate agent. Also consider that the original goal when he first started searching for Kiely and they set up this GoFundMe for the reward, supposedly, original goal was $10,000. And then the goal suddenly changed. I don't know. I think it changed actually a few times, but it finally went up to $150,000. Now, the original cause listed in this GoFundMe was finding Kiely and bringing her home. Let's bring Kiely home. All right? But then Lindsay pulled the reward money as soon as she heard AWP was coming. And this is what it was changed to. Support for the family of Kiely Rodni, $63,272, and the GoFundMe was closed. Now, let me ask you this. Is it just a coincidence that they changed this right after hearing AWP was coming? Like I said in the previous video, Lindsay had been pushing the abduction theory this whole time. Now when she heard AWP was coming, she pulled the reward money. And so why would she do that if she believed Kiely had been abducted? Does that make any sense to you? It sure doesn't to me. Now, you may totally disagree with me on this, but this is my opinion. I fully believe she already knew where Kiely was and knew AWP was going to find her. And that's why she pulled the reward money. Like I said, you might not agree with this, but looking at Lindsay's attitude and actions the whole time, that's what I believe. Why else would she pull it? Then she raised the goal to $150,000 thinking nobody was going to find Kiely. And I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong, but I don't think so. There's just too many coincidences. Then if you look at the GoFundMe page, it shows Lindsay as the beneficiary. See, Amy Quirarte as the organizer and Lindsay Neiman as the beneficiary. Now, this is what it should actually say. Yeah. This is what it should actually say. And to me, this is low down, classless, and downright wrong. You just disgust me. And, oh, by the way, there's someone who did some research and discovered that $150,000 was what was owed on the lodge. Coincidence? If you think that, I have some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. Oh, and another coincidence. They put the lodge up for sale right before Kiely went missing. And then after Kiely was found, they yanked it off the market. And now their website says they're preparing to open for the fall season. Now, I may come across like a jerk. I'm not trying to be. I may come across like that. And if I do, so be it. But I get tired of people trying to defend Lindsay. I think she's evil. That's my opinion, and nobody's going to change that. There are too many things I've seen to show she is heartless and conniving. And that may piss some people off, but I don't care. To me, she has shown who she is. And I dare anybody to prove me wrong. Ain't going to happen. And deep down, I think a lot of you know good and well that this GoFundMe was set up to line her pockets. Oh, and keep in mind, this wasn't the only place she was begging for money. She was also begging for money on her Venmo account. And also, they were taking donations during the search efforts. They were taking donations at the Celebration of Life ceremony. It's kind of like pro athletes making a statement, it's not about the money. Bull. It's always about the money. Now look, it doesn't cost $63,000 plus whatever else that she received to have someone cremated. When my mom died 2 years ago, she was cremated. We got a really nice urn, multiple death certificates, the whole enchilada. And it cost us a grand total of $1,700. We didn't need to set up a frickin' GoFundMe to pay for that. I think this whole thing has been a sham and a con game, in my opinion. And she has been showing her true colors, and I fully believe she knew where Kiely was, and that's why she yanked the reward money from AWP, because she knew they were going to find her. It would take a whole lot of counter evidence to convince me otherwise. You know, even the Bible says, ye shall know them by their fruits. In other words, we can determine who people are by their actions and attitudes. And I've worked with people all my life in many different capacities, and trust me, I know evil when I see it. All right, I'll jump off my soapbox now, and we'll move on to talking about the cops. All right, flag number 4. Did the police intentionally botch this? You remember the video, the recovery video of AWP when AWP tells Kiely, or it was Doug, tells Kiely's dad and granddad that they had located her, and he pointed and showed them where her car was. And the first words out of the dad's mouth was, how the F did they miss this? That's a good question. And it's the same question a whole lot of us are asking. How did they miss this? Now, there are several videos of it's a boat from, supposedly, I think they said it was from Alameda County, in the water near where Kiely's vehicle was found. And in the video, there's this buoy floating in the water. You know, it's between the boat and the shore. And it's right near where Kiely's vehicle was found, if not right over the top of it. You can see where I have it circled in this photo. Now, if you watch the video, you can see it a whole lot better. You can see it, bobbing around and such. So there's absolutely no way you can tell me that they were right there, had divers right there in that area, and they didn't find their car. There's no way especially, if it was 100 feet down, yeah, I can understand it. But when it was only, Well, he said under 14 feet of water, but this is 2 weeks before they found her, so the water was probably a little bit higher because they had started to drain the reservoir to fill Tahoe. But there still would only probably been at the very most 20 feet of water. But there's no way that they searched that area and didn't find it. And the more evidence I see, the more I believe that everybody involved knew she was there and only put on this pretense of a search just for PR purposes and to squeeze the state out of all this money and funding this charade of a search effort. I totally agree with Kiely's dad. How the F did they not find her? That was his gut reaction. His plain gut reaction to what Doug told him. And I really think that anyone with half a brain would have the same reaction. Now, I know it's hard to believe that law enforcement would intentionally not find her, but as the evidence mounts up, it's hard to believe they actually tried. They may have, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. There have been several people make comments on my videos when they put on the search and rescue efforts. The search is drawn out as long as possible so they can extract as much money from the state as they can. I also know this to be the case in cases that I was involved with personally as a cop. Oh, don't want to find her too quick. Need to draw it out so we can make as much money as we can. People, this goes on all the time. And not just in California, but every other state as well. I truly believe they knew where she was, and for whatever reason, they intentionally did not find her. All right, secondly, why did they try to steer AWP away from Prosser Lake? I noticed when Doug from AWP was talking about this, you could tell he was biting his tongue and not saying what he wanted to say. I mean, I'm surprised blood didn't start dripping from his mouth. He was biting his tongue so hard. He does have kind of a light, sarcastic tone when he says that law enforcement told them, "Oh, you don't need to search Prosser. It's already been cleared." And if you watch the interview, you can pick up on his tone. If you pay close attention, you can pick up on his tone that he thought this was rather suspicious. Watch the interview again, and you'll see what I mean if you really pay attention to it. Now, like I said before, law enforcement had supposedly searched Prosser, but also searched Boca and Stampede as well. They had cleared the other two as well as Prosser. They'd cleared all three of them. So, since they had searched all three of them and cleared all three of them, why did they tell AWP they didn't need to search Prosser? They didn't tell them they didn't need to search Boca. They didn't tell them they didn't need to search Stampede. They said, you don't need to search Prosser. We've already cleared it. Now, they couldn't come right out and tell AWP not to search Prosser. I mean, that would raise far too many red flags. But they definitely tried to convince AWP that they didn't need to search Prosser. Just another coincidence? Starting to add up. I don't think it is. Again, couple this with the fact that Lindsay pulled the reward as soon as she knew AWP was coming. You have enough coincidences. After time, they all start to add up to where they are no longer just coincidences. Thirdly, after the vehicle was located, why did law enforcement make AWP leave this area completely? Now, if you've watched a lot of AWP's videos, you see that most of the time they either do the recovery, and law enforcement asks them to do it because they know that they are the experts. They have the float bags. They have all the equipment to do this. Either ask them to do it, or if law enforcement does the recovery, AWP is still at the scene. Now, I saw a couple of videos where law enforcement made them leave, and in both instances, the people they were, law enforcement people were jerks. Just total jerks. So, on these ones where they were allowed to stay in the area, they might only be observers, but they were still there at the scene watching. So why did law enforcement make AWP leave the scene completely to where they were out of viewing range? Well, I think we both know the answer is obvious. They didn't want AWP there seeing what was going on or interfering in any way. They made sure that this whole thing stayed in-house, and there weren't any other witnesses there to see how things were handled. The only problem was there were other people up in choppers and with Zoom cameras and stuff like that recording the whole thing. Now, this recovery was botched to the point where you wonder if they were destroying evidence intentionally. And personally, I think they were. I mean, I was totally disgusted when I saw what they did on this recovery. It was a complete textbook on how not to do things. Every single thing they did was wrong and against any common sense. I mean, anyone with an ounce of common sense knows that you do not flip a car underwater, especially when it has a body in it, as well as other evidence that they know, or they should know anyway, would get flushed out of the car as it was flipped upright. I was so mad when I saw that. And then I watched the live stream of Duty Ron's, where he and Ed Wallace were absolutely outraged at how this recovery was done. They were flabbergasted. I mean, they made no bones about it. They were flat out pissed at how law enforcement handled this. They basically said everything I'd been thinking, and man, were they fired up. First off, anyone with a kindergarten education should know to wrap the windows to keep anything from flowing out of the vehicle onto the ocean floor. As that vehicle is flipped, there's going to be water gushing through there, and anything that is near a window is going to come flying out of the vehicle. That's crime scene 101, people. You wrap the windows. That's basic. And by the way, you never see AWP recover a vehicle with open windows without wrapping it first. Never. Secondly, they shouldn't have flipped the vehicle. They should have floated it, and they should have actually let AWP float it, and then take it out upside down the same way that it went in. Now, why is that? Because that body has been submerged in the vehicle for 2 weeks. It's already going to have some damage to it from both being waterlogged and the fish eating at it. Sorry, I know that's gross, but that's reality. The last thing you want to do is flip the vehicle and risk doing any more damage to the body. But maybe your objective is to purposely damage the body as much as possible so you can cover things up and call it an accident. Sorry, but them flipping the vehicle down there, it gets the award for Dumbass of the Year. The only motive I can possibly see for flipping the vehicle and risk damaging the body and losing evidence is it's one more attempt to compromise the evidence so you can complete your cover-up and call it an accident. And at this point, people, to be honest with you, I have a gut feeling that's what they're going to come out and say. Are they really that corrupt? Well, let me digress for a moment here to tell you a story. I was working at a certain police department, and it was a college town, and the college had a campus police department who were actually sworn city officers, but they only had jurisdiction on the campus. They didn't have jurisdiction in the rest of the city. And there was one officer whose wife was from Georgia. And she kept bugging him about moving back to where her family was because she is homesick and missed mommy and daddy. And finally he gave in. He began applying for jobs and got a job as a deputy at this one sheriff's office back there. About 6 months or so later, I saw he was back working for campus police. I asked him, dude, why'd you move back here from Georgia? And he was like, man... And so he started shaking his head. And he began telling me stories about how corrupt his department was and how they would cover up crimes and particularly cover for influential people in the town, people with money, and just plain corrupt in general. He said he couldn't take it anymore. He felt that he himself was in danger because he wouldn't buy into the corruption. And so got out of there as soon as he could. And his wife even agreed with him and said, yeah, let's get out of here. So even though she was happy to be back near mom and daddy, she's like, nah, let's go. And I'll tell you, some of the stories he told me were simply bone-chilling. It was really hard for me to believe cops could be so corrupt. But it happens, people. And I guarantee you it happens a lot more than we might want to believe. I guarantee you. Now take all of this that we've looked at and couple this with the fact that, as we discussed last time, they put out a fake photo saying it was Kiely at a store at a certain time when it's evident the photo isn't of Kiely. Also keep in mind that there are no photos of Kiely at this supposed party. All we have is the testimony of a few witnesses that I find less than credible, honestly. Why, when Kiely was found, Sammy said, oh, no, she wasn't? Why would you say that? Why, when she was told about Nick, the service driver, seeing two people with Kiely's car, Kate said, no, that's all lies, it's BS. Until she was told it was on video, then not another word. Why did Sammy totally slip up when doing that interview with Tony Dodgeball and said, no, that's not where she was found? Yeah, Sammy, you knew right where she was. You knew. Sorry, people, but I believe all of these people knew right where Kiely was and covered it up. It's just too coincidental to be coincidental. The supposed friends knew it. The family, except maybe the dad. I don't think the dad didn't know. It was obvious. But I think Lindsay knew. She knew it. The cops knew it. And I'm not, and you may get upset with me for saying this, but at this point, I'm not really sure about the grandpa. He seemed upset, but his association with Juan or Check It TV gives me a little bit of pause. You may not agree with me, and that's fine. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not 100% convinced. And that video where he was given the laptop was definitely staged and made for clicks. Also, people, there's been a couple of different videos that were made, and several people have noticed in the different videos, it's not the same laptop. Explain that one. Anyway, that's all I have for you today.